Okay, be honest. How many times have you really wanted to speak English?
But just froze up.
Yeah, like your brain just stopped working because you're so scared of messing up.
It happens to more people than you think.
I bet. But hey, that's why we're doing this deep dive today.
Right. We're going to unpack this awesome podcast episode all about finding that confidence.
To speak English without freaking out. You actually sent us this episode, so clearly it hit a nerve.
For sure.
And, okay, you know I love a good story.
Oh, absolutely.
And this episode starts with one. It's about this student who was terrified to speak up in class.
Oh, no.
But get this. She ended up impressing everyone.
What? Really? I gotta hear this.
I know, right? I can't wait to find out how it happened.
Well, the episode jumps right into busting a huge myth. It says that mistakes...
They're bad.
Not at all. Actually, they're like essential for learning.
Really?
Think about a little kid learning to walk. They fall down all the time, right?
Yeah, like 100 times a day.
But each tumble teaches them something about balance.
And how not to faceplant.
Exactly.
Okay, that actually makes me feel so much better.
Right.
I mean, I make mistakes constantly.
We all do.
It's kind of comforting knowing that even people who, like, grew your piece speaking English mess up sometimes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Native speakers make mistakes all the time.
Yeah. Okay. But how do we turn those slip-ups into something we can actually use?
That's where the episode gets really interesting. They suggest keeping what they call a mistake journal.
Ooh, a journal.
Yeah. You write down your errors and then spend a little time thinking about why they happened.
So it's like turning those embarrassing moments into...
So many lessons.
Wait, so instead of cringing every time I mess up...
You're actually celebrating the learning opportunity.
That's a huge mindset shift.
It really is. It's all about changing how you VW those mistakes.
Instead of seeing them as failures.
You see them as stepping stones.
I love that. But sometimes it feels like there's just so much to learn.
It can definitely feel overwhelming.
Like, where do you even start?
The episode talks about the power of gradual progress.
So not trying to do everything at once.
Exactly. Don't pressure yourself to have these super complex conversations right off the bat.
Okay, so start small.
Yep. Build up your skills gradually.
Like baby steps.
Exactly. The episode actually gives this great example of a student who practiced just one simple sentence every day.
Just one.
And eventually, those little sentences turned into full-blown conversations.
Wow, that's super encouraging.
Right. So instead of setting these giant, scary goals...
Focus on those little wins.
Exactly. Start with everyday phrases, things like ordering coffee, asking for directions.
Stuff you actually use.
Exactly. Each little victory builds your confidence and makes you want to keep going.
Okay, so it's like building a foundation.
Brick by brick.
I like that. But let's be real, speaking a new language can be terrifying.
Especially when you're putting yourself out there.
With other people.
It's like stage fright, but for conversations.
Totally. So how do we deal with that? Social anxiety.
That's where finding a supportive practice environment comes in.
Okay, so finding your people.
Yes. The episode talks about how important it is to have people around you who are cheering you on.
Like a cheer squad.
Exactly. They even shared a story about a listener who joined an English club and said it totally changed her confidence.
Oh, cool. What happened?
Everyone in the club was learning together, so there was no judgment.
Just support.
Exactly. And when you know you're not being judged for every little mistake...
You can relax and take more risks.
Exactly.
It's like having a safety net while you're learning to fly.
I love that analogy.
Me too. Speaking of support, the episode also mentioned those language exchange apps.
Oh, yeah, like HelloTalk and Tandem.
Have you ever tried those?
I have. They can be great for connecting with people from all over the world who are also learning English.
That's awesome. You can chat, have calls.
Even video chats.
So cool. And again, it's all about finding that sense of, like, community.
Absolutely. It's like having a global network of language buddies.
I love that.
Yeah.
But even with the best cheer squad in the world, sometimes it feels like there just aren't enough chances to actually speak English.
I hear you. That can be a challenge.
Any tips for getting around that?
This might sound a little crazy, but the episode actually recommends talking to yourself in English.
Wait, what?
I know, right? But hear me out.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's all about creating that low-pressure environment where you can experiment without worrying about making mistakes in front of others.
Okay.
And the episode actually has research to back this up. They suggest things like narrating your day, practicing sentences in the mirror,
Talking to the mirror.
or even using voice recording apps to get feedback on how you sound.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying that talking to myself can actually help me become more fluent?
Exactly.
That's kind of brilliant.
Right. Think about it. You're not limited by anyone else's schedule, and you can literally practice anywhere, anytime.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal.
The episode even shared an anecdote about a student who started narrating her day in English and saw her fluency skyrocket.
Wow, really?
She felt a bit silly at first, but the results spoke for themselves.
Okay, color me intrigued. It seems like the key here is consistency.
It really is. Even just a few minutes of self-practice each day can make a huge difference.
I like that. But you know what? I still struggle with pronunciation. Like, I know the words, but I just can't seem to get them to come out right.
I hear you. Pronunciation can be tricky.
Are there any specific techniques for that?
There's a technique mentioned in the episode called shadowing.
Shadowing.
Yeah. It's all about mimicking the way native speakers talk, their pronunciation, their rhythm, even their intonation.
So it's like, I'm their shadow, trying to match their style as closely as possible.
Exactly. And the great thing is you can do it with any audio content you enjoy. Movies, podcasts, audiobooks.
Even YouTube videos.
Exactly. Just choose something you actually like listening to and try to repeat what you hear as accurately as possible.
Ooh, that
Yeah.
sounds kind of fun. Way more fun than drilling pronunciation exercises.
Right. It's a great way to train your ear and improve your pronunciation without even realizing you're practicing.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try shadowing. It seems like a really engaging way to learn.
It is. And the key here is to make the process enjoyable.
That's so important. When you're having fun, it takes the pressure off and makes the whole experience so much more positive.
I completely agree. And that positive attitude is a huge part of building confidence.
I think you're right. When you're feeling good about yourself and the learning process, it's easier to push past those fears and just go for it.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think it's time for a little break. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive
We have, from reframing our mindset about mistakes
to finding our awesome cheerleaders.
and even embracing the power of talking to ourselves.
Who knew?
It's amazing what a little self-chat can do.
I'm already feeling more motivated and optimistic about my own language learning journey.
That's fantastic to hear.
It's amazing how just hearing these practical tips and success stories can be so inspiring.
I agree. It's a reminder that we're all in this together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that there's no one right way to learn,
It's all about finding what works best for you.
and embracing the journey.
Exactly.
We'll be back soon with part 2 of our deep dive.
Where we'll delve even deeper into specific strategies and techniques for overcoming those speaking jitters.
And taking your English skills to the next level.
But before we go, we want to hear from you, our amazing listener.
What's resonated with you the most so far?
What tip or insight are you most excited to try out?
Share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep experimenting.
And most importantly, keep embracing the joy of learning.
We'll be back soon. Welcome back.
I'm so ready for more of those practical tips.
We left off talking about talking to ourselves in English.
Yeah, which still feels a little weird, I gotta admit.
But the episode goes into detail about WHY. It actually works.
Okay, convince me.
Well, it creates this, safe space where you can practice without feeling judged.
I guess that makes sense.
Like no one's listening except you.
So I can make all the mistakes I want.
Exactly. And you can experiment with different words and phrases without worrying about sounding silly.
Okay, I'm listening.
The episode gives this great example of a student who started narrating her day in English.
What, like just talking about what she was doing?
Yeah, simple stuff like, I'm making breakfast or I'm going to the store.
Huh, I never thought of that.
It's such a simple thing, but it can make a big difference.
Did it work for her?
It totally did. She found that by consistently using English, even for these little everyday things, she started to get more comfortable with the language.
Interesting. So it's like training your brain to think in English.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
The episode also mentioned practicing in front of a mirror,
Oh, yeah, that one.
which honestly sounds kind of awkward.
I know, it can feel a little strange at first.
But they said it helps you become more aware of your body language.
It does. You can see how you're using your hands, your facial expressions.
It's like giving a presentation to your toughest critic.
Yourself.
Exactly. And speaking of critiques, they also suggested using those voice recording apps
Oh, yeah, those are great.
to get feedback on your pronunciation.
It's like having a personal speech coach in your pocket.
I love that. It's so easy to not even realize how you sound when you're speaking.
Right. But when you listen back to a recording, you can really hear those areas where you need to improve.
So I can focus on things like intonation and rhythm,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, those mistakes,
our learning opportunity.
that's the spirit. Now, what about that shadowing technique?
Oh yeah, that one sounded really interesting.
Remember we talked about mimicking native speakers?
Like copying how they talk,
Shadowing takes it to the next level. You choose some audio that you enjoy.
like a movie or something.
Yeah, movies, podcasts, audiobooks, anything you like.
And then what?
You try to repeat what you hear as closely as possible.
So it's like I'm their shadow, copying their every word.
Exactly. You're matching their pronunciation, their intonation, their rhythm.
That sounds challenging.
It can be,
Uh.
but it's also a lot of fun. And it's a really effective way to train your ear and improve your pronunciation.
Plus, you're doing it while enjoying something you like.
Exactly. It's all about making the learning process enjoyable.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try shadowing.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about those language exchange apps, but what about actually finding people to practice with?
Well, those apps are a great place to start. You can connect with people from all over the world who are also learning English.
Yeah, like a global network of language buddies.
Exactly. And there are also tons of online communities and local groups where you can connect with other learners.
Oh, cool. Like English clubs and stuff.
Exactly.
So I can find people to practice with both online and offline,
It's all about finding what works best for you.
and maybe stepping outside my comfort zone a little.
Sometimes those unexpected connections can lead to the most rewarding experiences.
That's a good point. It's all part of the adventure. All right, welcome back to our deep dive on speaking English with confidence.
We've covered a lot of ground already.
So many practical tips
From embracing those mistakes,
to finding our tribe and experimenting with cool techniques like shadowing.
now I think it's time to talk about the mindset piece.
Yeah, because sometimes even with all the right tools,
It's our own Nagrin thoughts that hold us back.
totally. And the episode really emphasizes that.
Heat time.
It talks about setting realistic expectations.
Remembering that fluency, it's a journey, not a destination.
It's so easy to get caught up in wanting to sound perfect right away.
Oh yeah, that pressure can really get to you.
But the episode says that kind of thinking can actually sabotage our progress.
Makes sense.
So instead of comparing ourselves to others,
We should focus on our own individual journey.
and celebrate those little wins along the way.
Exactly. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory.
I love that. And speaking of small steps, the episode also encourages us to, embrace imperfect action.
Ah, yes. Not letting the fear of messing up stop us from speaking at all.
Yeah, you know that feeling where you hesitate to speak because you're worried about saying the wrong thing?
We've all been there.
But the episode says we got to push past that fear.
Speak up, even if it's not perfect.
Because every time we use English, even if it's a bit messy, we're strengthening those connections in our brains.
It's like building a muscle.
The more we use it.
The stronger it gets.
I like that analogy. So basically, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Don't let them hold you back.
And the episode also highlights this idea of focusing on communication.
Rather than perfection.
It's a good reminder that the goal is to connect with others and express ourselves.
Not to sound like a textbook.
Sometimes I get so caught up in the grammar rules that I forget about the actual conversation.
I know what you mean. But when we prioritize communication, those little mistakes become less important.
It's more about getting your message across,
And connecting with the person you're talking to.
and they'll appreciate the effort
They will. They'll be more focused on what you're saying.
than on any little grammar slip-ups.
For sure.
Okay, so we've talked about mindset shifts, but what about motivation?
Staying motivated over the long haul can be tough.
Especially when you hit those roadblocks.
It's moments where you feel like you're not making any progress.
How do we keep that fire burning?
The episode suggests connecting our English practice with our passions.
So finding ways to make it fun.
Absolutely. If you love music, listen to English songs.
If you're a movie buff, watch movies in English.
And if you enjoy reading, explore English books.
So instead of forcing yourself to study from a boring textbook,
Find ways to incorporate English into things you already enjoy.
make it a part of your life.
Exactly. And remember, learning a new language opens up so many doors.
It allows us to connect with people from all over the world,
Experience new cultures.
expand our horizons. As we wrap up this deep dive, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned.
We've talked about so much.
From reframing our mindset about mistakes
To finding supportive communities.
and making the learning process fun and engaging.
It's been a great journey.
It really has. And, I'm feeling so much more confident about my own English-speaking goals.
That's wonderful to hear.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that it's all about the journey.
And finding what works best for you.
So, dear listener, what are your biggest takeaways from this deep dive?
What strategies are you excited to try out?
Share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you.
Remember, the journey to fluency is ongoing.
Keep practicing, keep exploring, and never give up on your dream of speaking English with confidence.
Thank you so much for joining us.
See you next time for another deep dive.